Alright, y'all. 7:05. I am alive. I hope that my air conditioner is not too loud because it is hot. Less hot today than other days, but it's very humid and I feel like a frog, hence the green. An amphibian, just living in a rainforest. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Welcome to another IATSE gaming stream. So we're not gaming. We haven't done that in a year. Well, a little less than a year, but we have been doing this stream for a year. So I don't know when our first official stream was, but I do know that it has been a year. What's up, Stussy? Glad to see ya. It's been a year. This time last year, we were figuring out how to do this, and look at us now. We got Elvis. Didn't have that before. And you got me, which I've, in 90% of these streams, have failed to introduce myself. So I'm going to do that right now. My name is Chrissy. CHRISS and a Y, not an IE, not a K. I am an organizer and an international representative with the IATSE, which is the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. We are the entertainment union, and games are entertainment. Therefore, game work is entertainment work. Yeah. I'll talk a little bit about where I got started, but we're also going to talk a little bit about some things that happened during the campaign at Titmouse. But I used to work at a place called Titmouse in New York City, and we were a non-union branch of their 3 studio. And we formed a union in January of 2022. And we ratified our agreement, our first agreement, in June of 2023. So yeah, it's a little bit about me. I love Elvis and leopard print and green. Okay. So anyway, let's get started talking about pro-union players. I get asked this question a lot by all kinds of people. I also get asked by workers, hey, can I introduce you to my boss? Y'all could have a great conversation about forming a union. Or if my boss were interested in forming a union, could they talk to you? And here's the thing. Your boss can be pro-union. Your boss could be in favor of unionizing y'all as workers. But y'all still got to do it. Your boss cannot wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm feeling very pro-labor. I am going to give all of my employees union status. Unfortunately, not how this works. I mean, I don't know if that's unfortunate, but it's certainly not the truth of how the law works. We have to organize from the bottom up. We have to start with the workers. The workers have to want a union in order for one to be formed. Otherwise, you work non-union, which is the state of most of games as of today. But we're working every day to change that. But again, it doesn't come from your boss saying we should be union. We'll talk about a few examples, especially in games, of bosses saying pro-labor stuff. They don't always say anti-labor stuff. They might be very left sort of folks, and therefore feel a bit more positively about a unionized workforce. Or they have the experience of working with a unionized workforce, which brings me to the first thing I wanted to bring up. Kidscreen is a specifically in New York City, I think, just in New York. Maybe it travels the country, but Kidscreen always comes to New York every year, and it's children's media screenings of films, features, television shows, etc. There's lots of panels. It's like a convention for children's entertainment, which includes a lot of like Titmouse shows. I feel like Titmouse is mostly known for Adult Swim, at least amongst the older crowd, meaning like the 18 plus. But we also do kids shows, pre-K. Last show I was on was a show called Obstruction, and it was a preschool show about dogs building buildings, puppies specifically, which sounds very OSHA compliant. And they were non-union, but the puppies were, not us. We were union. But in this article, this somewhat long article talking about specifically the Vancouver's office forming their union and ratifying their contract, because this was written in March 2022, which was just 2 months after we announced forming our union, so we had not ratified our contract yet. But they speak with Emily Gossman, who was on the organizing committee up at Titmouse Vancouver, and why they formed a union. I feel like this sentence right here is something I hear very commonly from game workers, which is, this generation wasn't going to stick around to become the old guys because, well, the expectations around animation have evolved, the pay and other working conditions largely have not, which is a quote from Emily. And I feel that. I felt that very much at my studio, and I feel like that is a very similar thing to what happens in games, is that people, like, you don't see a lot of old folks working. It's like, why is that? They don't all just reach an age and get moved to another building where you never see them. For us, it was like, we can't live the life that we want to live. Like, we can't afford a home, we can't afford to have kids. So it's a choice between doing the thing you always wanted to do and having that, like, quote unquote American dream, or in Emily's case, the Canadian dream, free healthcare. I still dream about that. I do still dream about that. But it's telling to walk into a place of employment and not see anyone older than you by a large margin. I mean, like, you're not walking into work and seeing a 50-year-old that is still working, that isn't like an executive. But anyway, I digress. So Chris Pernosky, who is one of the founders, and as of 2022 was the president. I believe he's still the president. I'm not sure. I don't work there anymore. But Chris Pernosky said in this article, these union agreements make it easier for us to advocate on the artist's behalf to the clients that determine the budgets and the schedules. The increased unionization of the animation industry may also mean a mindset shift for business owners. While they might not be able to compete on price anymore, that doesn't mean a unionized studio can't be competitive. Very pro-labor. Granted, this was said after we formed our union. But Chris Pernosky, if you didn't know, is also a member of Local 839, which is the Animation Guild. So to have all of his workforce under 839, I think is a benefit. But again, just because your boss is even a union member, your boss is a union member. That didn't have anything to do with us forming a union. It didn't have anything to do with Canada forming a union. We worked non-union in New York. That studio has been there since 2009. So it's been 11 years. And as of 2023, now they're fully ratified contract union workers. So they worked a long time non-union, and it wasn't because of Chris Bernowski. It was because we got together, realized we needed it, and did the work to do it. Let's talk about another one. Let's talk about one that's specifically in games. So let's talk about Jeff Strain, which I feel like Jeff has been in the news a lot lately because of the closure of Possibility Space and Crop Circle. I'm gonna move myself over. Oops. The article. Move me. I can read this article too. Where am I? I have too much stuff. No. There it is. Got me. Scooch. Now I have to stay very still because otherwise I'm out of frame. Y'all don't come here to see my face though. Anyway, so I feel like Jeff has been in the news a lot lately because of Possibility Space and Crop Circle. But he also had very strong pro-unionization statements. And this article is from 2021. I'm pretty sure that was the year that, forgive me if I am incorrect, but I think that was the year that he formed Possibility Space and Crop Circle. If not, it was shortly thereafter. Stussy asked if I've seen any of the cameos on the Tag Instagram. Yes, I've watched every single one. I am in love with them. I am not biased, but Marissa's was my favorite. That is Marissa Bernstill. She is one of the executive board members, and hers was the one with her cat, and her cat smacks her at the end. It's very cute. And also I love Marissa. Marissa's fantastic. But yeah, those are really good. If y'all haven't seen those, I'm pretty sure they're up on the Animation Guild's Twitter. They had one of the ICT members, I'm never going to remember his name. It wasn't Shaggy, I think. I don't know. I'm not a juggalo. I love juggalos though. I think they're fantastic. Anyway, so Jeff Strain, he made a very large statement. He wrote a whole letter to the game industry about forming unions. Where's the exact? We need unionization, he says. Unions were started in this country to protect workers from abusive, cruel, abhorrent, unacceptable, and illegal treatment from companies. That's their entire purpose. If this week does not show us that our industry colleagues, even the most entry-level QA tester, need true support and baseline protection, I can't imagine how much worse it will have to get. This is 2021. Almost 3 years ago. And did the Possibility Space folks form a union because of this? Did the Crop Circle folks form a union because of this? Did the Undead Labs folks, the company he founded, he had already left, but did they form a union after this? It doesn't come from up top. The workers gotta want it, the workers gotta do it. Stussy says Shaggy Too Dope from ICP. Brian Cox did one. Oh, I didn't see that one. Fearless Sun says, I've noticed that most of pro-union bosses that I've heard from tend to only give public statements in support of unions once they retire from actively managing. Isn't that funny? It's not funny. I mean, it's not funny. I guess it's funny in the way that, like, it feels funny. It's not, like, actually comedic, you know? What's up, Zephyr Zen? Glad to see you. But yeah, even that statement. And then he went to go open up 2 new companies, and he didn't say when he opened those companies, hey, guess what? Y'all are union. He didn't say that. He didn't even say, hey, guess what, folks? If you all want to form a union, I just want you to know that I'll be neutral. Imagine if he had done that from jump. Even just saying that. Imagine if when he opened his new companies, he had come to the IA and said, I want to sign a neutrality agreement with you and be neutral in labor unionization at my studios. And I also, want to make sure that we will have speedy but thorough and neutral bargaining. Because, like, forming your union is one thing. And we've talked about contract negotiations a bit, but negotiating your first contract is a whole other thing. It's like 2 phases. Your union is not, like, full until you have ratified your first agreement. It's there. It exists. But we have to hold our employers accountable, and that is what the whole contract thing is about. And getting it in writing. You ever, like, have your boss be like, hey, you're like, hey boss, can I talk to you about a raise? And they're like, yeah, sure, let me call you on the phone. They don't want you to have a paper trail. They don't want it in writing. They never want it in writing. They know better to put it in writing, because then they are obligated to follow through with it. But again, like, no matter how much they tout unionism themselves, it does not necessarily a union make, right? He called it it's time, which is something I say a lot. It is time. Zephyr Zen says, I tried searching for fairly paid and union-friendly game industry CEOs. Not only could I not find many examples, even close to what I was looking for, the SEO kept feeding me search results for the highest paid or most popular industry CEOs. Yeah. It's tough out there to get the correct information, which is why we're here every week talking about this stuff. Because this is the law. These are the rules. I'm not here to lie, y'all. I'm not Anderson Cooper. He's a good guy. Tucker Carlson. I'm not Tucker Carlson. Oh, thank God I'm not Tucker Carlson. But I'm here to bring you the labor truth so that you know your labor rights and you can exercise them if you so choose. Because, you know what? I didn't know my labor rights at all until I got involved with forming unions. So, it's all about education. But anyway, Jeff Strain. Still, and then guess what? A couple years later, he just shuttered the whole thing. I don't know if the company still exists in some shape or form. But yeah, no union, even though he said all this. Because it's still hard. It's still hard, right? So, like, it's not easy to just form a union. It's not. Like, I'm not trying to frame this as if it's simple. There's strategy involved, and that's why we're here. We're here to get your back. We're here to help you. Because this, like, going it alone, oh man, can't imagine. It's tough. So that's why we're here, to help, educate, support, do all those things. Um, so let's talk a bit about Tom McCown. I think I can get back to the picture a little bit. Okay. John McGowan is a former Bungie CLO, which is the lead part of the legal team. I'm not familiar with my executive acronyms. I know CEO and CFO. But he also said the game industry must unionize. Bungie didn't form one yet. Still working, maybe? I don't know. But after being laid off from Bungie, oh, he got laid off. Even better. Fearless Sun says, I know, Don. We used to be part of the same social email distribution list way back in the day of Microsoft. I'm sure he's a fine dude. Especially if he's pro-union. He was suing against Destiny 2 cheat makers and players that targeted the studio with harassment. So that's good. The harassment part, I mean, I don't know what cheat makers are. I really don't. Maybe somebody in chat can explain to me. But he said he also has a history in the entertainment business, which he specifically called out the IA as a place y'all should unionize, which I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. Don, such unions, like the local shops managed through IATSE, would let workers organize under quote-unquote run-of-show contracts that guarantee specific pay rates during the length of development, and maybe, most importantly, create a health care and pension system that would follow developers from job to job. Studios would then be able to ramp up and then ramp down their workforce needs in a similar way to how they already do with contractors and external development service providers. McGowan believes it's very clear the studios want a version of this model already. I'd agree with that. Like, that's why we talk about the crossover with IA locals already so much, and how we really understand entertainment work, because it's what it is. It's very similar, and I'm not saying that there's not staff. There's staff, right? There's people who aren't on like a project-based thing, like they're not here to just work on one game. They're working maybe even on multiple games at a time, or they go from game 1 to game 2 to game 3, so on and so forth. Like they are eternal at the company. But I remember, oh man, it breaks my heart every time I think about it, but like there was a worker at like a Naughty Dog that posted a LinkedIn post when they got laid off, because they had been working there for like over 10 years, and it was so much a part of their identity. And to work somewhere full time for that long, it is like, it's life altering. You know, it's like a death, you know? Your life is forever changed in a matter of moments. It's not gradual. There's no notice. You're just told, today's your last day, pack up your stuff and go. And it's like, well, what did I do? Why do I deserve this? I've been here for 10 years. I thought we had something. It's very hard, you know? And I'm not saying that every single game worker should switch to this model of like being on a production circuit. Like, that's not what we would ask of employers to do. And by we, I mean you and your coworkers. Like, I say we because the IA would be involved if you formed a union with us. But the goal would not be to change the model to be project based. You know, whatever your employer's status quo is what we start with. That's the baseline. And when we get to negotiating, we're there to improve upon that, not take away from it or demote anything from it or take away the things that really like that is what we head to the table with, maintaining what you have. So if that is staff, great, let's maintain the staff part. If that is project based, like we were at Titmouse, you know, and there was even some staff in there, everybody was treated like, in the New York circuit we called it permalance, which I'm sure game workers are also very familiar with that term too, but it's like permanent freelance, where you're treated like a W-2 employee. You get benefits and insurance, but again, you're not staff. Like, you're not guaranteed work forever. So yeah. Yeah, it could be a very beneficial thing to have protections for work that is done under that project-based type of model. Jefferson knows permalance. No raises either. Yeah, you know, I could really get into that one. Maybe we'll talk about that on a future stream. Raises. How difficult it is to achieve one. That's very inspiring for a future stream topic anyway. So appreciate that. But yeah, a way to make your employees ineligible for unionization is to move them into management. If employers sense that an employee eagerness for a union is brewing, they might see who among their ranks has been seeking pay raises and offer them what they desire along with the title bump. That's called union busting. Yeah, many developers have experienced this phenomenon without any thought of unionization in their minds. They want to be paid more, but can only earn a raise by taking a leadership role. But when they take the job, they may not be ready for leadership, and they and their team suffer as a result. Isn't that great? Unions also have a role to play in a month like this, where the game industry is being blasted by waves and waves of layoffs in the name of nimbleness and profits. Unions cannot prevent layoffs, but they can negotiate better terms for employees cut from the company. That is huge. McGowan is very educated on this subject. I love it. I know where he is now. Right now, game developers do not have the leverage of solidarity at their disposal. With a union, they could. Let's do this. Let's go. And I think that, you know, it's great for people like Don and people like Jeff Strain to make these public comments, because it gets likes, it gets shared, it spreads the knowledge. But I feel like for most people, they're like, yeah, that's great. And then they don't know what to do. They're like, great. Glad y'all support it. That means that this will happen. The likelihood... Wait, what? Don's not anywhere now. He's effectively retired now. He calls it entering my villain arc. Wow. I don't know what that means. That's kind of frightening. That means you just get like a fluffy cat and a big chair and a very expensive suit and maybe a volcano dungeon lair. Forget what I was saying. I apologize. But so like it does get this attention, but then like workers still need to do it. Workers still need to form the union. They still have to do the work to form it. It's got biscuits and gravy. That's not very villainesque. And even then, let's talk about that Microsoft deal, you know? With the AFL. labor neutrality at all of their studios and subsidiaries. Again, like those workers are still non-union at Blizzard, still non-union at Undead Labs, still non-union at Xbox. We got ZeniMax and a couple of the Blizzard QA folks, but what about everybody else? They signed a neutrality agreement. They said we will be neutral if workers want to form a union. If workers want to form a union, you still have to do the work to form a union. I'm really nailing this point home today. But we talked about it last week too with not last week, 2 weeks ago, when I was talking about the news with Yves Guillemot, I think I said that right, at Ubisoft, being protective of his workers because they were getting harassment from players of their games due to dissatisfaction with the games themselves, which is great. You know, but will that continue to be the case for future games? Will that continue to be the case for other disputes at work? This title of this article is even just like it hurts me. You'll feel like applauding this LinkedIn post from Manor Lord's publisher. Well, and he does have good things to say, this publisher. Like, quote right here is even good. A release should not begin an ever-accelerating treadmill on which devs are forced to run until their mental or physical health breaks down. Agreed. Let's secure that in the contract so that you don't suddenly change your mind about this quote and just try to bury this article so that no one ever brings it up again. Because everybody was giving Manor Lords like crap about early access development. I don't know if y'all heard about that or heard about that or felt that same way. But before the release, I had a chat with a Manor Lords dev. I told him that after release, he was going to hear from all sorts of commenters talking about missed opportunities because he failed to grow as fast as they wanted and judging the game a failure by some kind of expectation. I told him to ignore all that and to focus on his core vision for the game and to keep in mind that the early access road is long and that he should not feel any sense of pressure from the expectations of others. This is a very nice pep talk. If this industry is to find a more sustainable path forward, we need to move away from takes like the below, which is this quote from somebody else giving him crap about the early access. Success should not create an ever-raising bar of new growth expectations. Not every game should be aimed at becoming some live service boom or bust. And a release should not begin an ever-accelerating treadmill in which devs are forced to run until their mental or physical health breaks down. Let's get it in writing so that that is sustainable. That is the truth. That is the fact of the matter, is that we are protected from that sort of abuse. Where we're the ones who got to bust butt for months and months and months on end to get a game out the door. You know? And then what? And then we're thanked by getting laid off because of shareholders not seeing enough return. And the only way to cut costs is to cut labor. That doesn't mean that the work goes away. Work didn't go away. The work is still there. Gotta get done by less people, though, so that we can make more money. I saw a thing today that, like, Xbox, like, Microsoft is going to charge more money for Xbox Game Pass. Even my Squarespace subscription went up. just bananas out there. But Microsoft is like making money hand over fist. We gotta like cut labor and increase pressure on consumers. I feel like this is happening everywhere, not just in games, but you know, it is happening in games too, where these like mega corporations are continuing to just suck up every cent they can. And who pays the price? Not the shareholders. They're living on their yacht. Have you ever been on a yacht? Not me. Went on like a river cruise in Manhattan once. It's alright. But all this stuff is to say, again, like, your boss being in favor of this does nothing. If they wanna be truly neutral, sign a neutrality agreement. Come to the IA and say, I would like one neutrality agreement, please. I mean, it'll be a little bit more of a conversation, but that's how you can help form unions, is be neutral and let your employees know that you will be neutral by signing an agreement that will guarantee that. And even then, as in the case of at Microsoft and Blizzard, a union is not necessarily immediately made because of that. It doesn't come from executives. It comes from the workers themselves. So y'all gotta do this. Y'all want this? Y'all dream of a future where your job is sustainable, that you don't have to leave this industry because of insecurity? And I don't mean insecurity on your behalf. I mean insecurity of the industry as a whole. That there are safeguards there for you so that you don't have to give up on the thing that you were trained to do and that you've always dreamed of doing, that you love doing. You know? Siding, welcome, says subscriptions by megacorps are just abstractions to skip profit off the top of actual labor. That too. Yes. Absolutely. We got to do this ourselves. You know, if you're out there and inspired to do this yourself, there's a plethora of ways for you to get started. One of those ways is by reaching out to me directly. You can scan this QR code and go to our gameworkers.org/links, or just go to gameworkers.org. There's a contact an organizer form on there. Fill it out and we'll talk. Or you can email me directly, which is also included at and we'll have a conversation and we'll get started on your campaign. Or, you know, you can talk to a coworker and see if they're into the idea of a union too. Guess what? We got info on that too. Again, if you scan the QR code, you can go to our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/IATSENY for New York. And all of our streams get uploaded there, as well as right there on the homepage is our one-on-one conversation training, so you can find out how to have a conversation with your coworkers in the best way that we know how. And Stussy brings up the heartbreak that I feel, which is that Jane McAlevey, an incredible force in the labor movement, and recently passed away this past weekend. And, you know, while it is an intense loss for the people that know her, learned from her, have read her books, or were inspired by her work will continue, and it continues, especially with our work at the IATSE. We use so much of what she's taught in our training and our strategies. Jane was truly a force, and I certainly learned a ton from her, from her books and from her classes. And I encourage y'all, if you have the opportunity to, they still offer the Organizing for Power course that she put together. I've taken it twice because it's great. You could sign up for that class and continue to live Jane's legacy. But yeah, as I was saying, like our one-on-one conversation training, like very heavily inspired by Jane. But you don't have to wait for Organizing for Power, because that comes around, I think, every 6 months or so. You can get direct training from us. We'll teach you, and then we'll help you strategize. So if you wanted to get a cursory introduction to the one-on-one conversation, you can check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/IATSEMY. And you can also watch restreams of all of our past streams. And yes, Dusty, her books are great. I highly recommend one with the yellow cover. And I'm miserable at remembering the title. But also, so there's two. You can talk to a coworker, you can reach out to me directly. Or, you know, you could just take our survey that's on gameworkers.org and we'll reach out to you. We'll hit you up. I don't mind. But it wouldn't always be me. You might get somebody else. But if you want to talk direct to me, hit me up. Well, folks, I think we might wrap it a little early today because I feel like I've beaten this dead horse. Unless y'all in the chat want to talk about something, talk about Elvis. Or if you've got a union question, any union questions? I'm here. But I think we might just call it. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. I hope y'all had a great 4th. Yes, they just did Power and Participation. We took that class when we were getting ready to negotiate our first contract. And Zephyr Zen, I too want to see more industry leaders being openly pro-union. It would be helpful, but it's still not the path to forming a union fully. I want to see a video compilation of that. Yeah, maybe you could catch them like off guard. And they accidentally say something pro-labor. Oops, don't quote me on that. Also, my throat's dry. Okay. Have a great week. I'm gonna go back to eating my leftover hot dogs, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.